I'm Sofia. I'm 24 years old, and 3 days ago, I collapsed in the emergency room while my mother stood 15 feet away, telling the nurse I was being dramatic. I wasn't being dramatic. I had bilateral pulmonary embolism, blood clots in both lungs. The doctor said I had minutes, not hours. Minutes before my heart would stop. Minutes before I would die on that cold hospital floor while my mother rolled her eyes and checked her phone. The man who saved my life? My stepfather, Owen. The same man my mother told me abandoned our family 5 years ago. The man she made me believe chose his freedom over us. The man she taught me to hate. But here's what she didn't tell me. He didn't abandon us. He never stopped caring. And when I was dying, when my own mother refused to sign the papers that would save my life, Owen appeared. He signed them. He paid for everything. He stayed. My mother? She went home because she had a migraine. Before I continue, if you think this story is worth hearing, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely want to know how this ends. And if you're watching right now, drop a comment telling me where you're from. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Now, let me take you back 2 weeks, to the day my body started screaming for help, and to the day my mother told me to stop being so dramatic about dying. 2 weeks before I collapsed, I was sitting at my desk at work when I felt it, a tightness in my chest, like someone was sitting on my rib cage. I took a deep breath, except I couldn't. Not fully. I told myself it was stress. I was managing 3 projects at once. Stress made sense. Stress was normal. So I took 2 ibuprofen and kept working. That night, I called my mother. "Mom," I said, "I think something might be wrong. I've been having trouble breathing." There was a pause, the kind that told me she was already annoyed. "Sofia," she said, her voice sharp, "I have had anxiety attacks for 30 years. 30 years. Do you know what it feels like to live with chronic pain every single day? It's not anxiety, Mom. It's different. My chest feels tight and... Have you tried deep breathing exercises? Or are you just calling me to complain?" "I'm not complaining. You always think something's wrong, Sofia. Take a Xanax and stop calling me at work." She hung up. I stared at my phone for a long time. Then I opened my medicine cabinet, found an old bottle of anxiety medication, and took one. Because maybe she was right. Maybe I was just being dramatic. Maybe I never knew the difference between real pain and imagined pain. 3 days later, my mother texted me the address of a restaurant. Be there at 7. Ashley has news. Ashley is my younger sister. She's 21, blonde, and everything my mother ever wanted in a daughter. Where I'm quiet and serious, Ashley is bubbly and fun. Where I work in project management, Ashley is a social media influencer who gets paid to post photos of her morning coffee. My mother adores her. When I arrived at the restaurant, they were already seated. My mother was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my rent. Ashley was glowing. "Sofia," my mother said without looking up. "You're late." "I'm 2 minutes early," I said. Ashley squealed before I could sit down. She thrust her left hand across the table. A diamond ring. Huge, sparkling under the restaurant lights. "I'm engaged," she announced. "Oh, honey," my mother gasped. "Oh my God, let me see. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Tell me everything." For the next 20 minutes, I sat there while Ashley recounted every detail. The beach at sunset, the photographer hiding in the bushes, the champagne. My mother hung on every word, squealing, tearing up. My chest was still tight, and now there was a new symptom. A dull ache in my left leg. It had started that morning and hadn't gone away. "Mom," I said during a pause, "I've been having some weird symptoms lately." My mother's face changed. The joy drained out of it. "Sofia," she said. "Really? Right now? I just thought I should mention it. My chest has been... Ashley's getting married," my mother snapped. "Can you please for once let something not be about you? You always do this," Ashley said coldly. "Every time something good happens to me, you suddenly have some crisis. When I graduated high school, you had the flu. When I got my first brand deal, you had food poisoning. Now I'm engaged and suddenly you can't breathe? That's not fair, I said quietly. Isn't it? Ashley crossed her arms. You always need attention when it's my turn to shine. I looked down at my leg. There were small bruises there, dark purple, clustered around my ankle. I didn't remember hitting anything. They had just appeared. I pulled my pant leg down to cover them. You're right, I said. I'm sorry. Congratulations, Ash. My mother smiled. That's better. I didn't bring up my symptoms again. Not when I had to stop twice walking to my car because I was out of breath. Not when I got home and Googled shortness of breath plus leg pain plus bruising and saw the words pulmonary embolism staring back at me. I closed the laptop. I took another Xanax. And I told myself I was being dramatic, because that's what I'd been told my entire life. When I was 8 years old, I fell off the monkey bars at school. My arm hurt so badly I threw up. My mother picked me up, looked at my arm, which was clearly swollen, and said, "You're fine. You just want to go home and watch TV." My teacher, Mrs. Palmer, had to pull my mother aside and say, "That child's arm is broken. You need to take her to the hospital." I had fractured my radius in 2 places. My mother never apologized. She just told everyone I was so dramatic. Even the teacher believed me. When I was 14, I woke up in the middle of the night with stabbing pain in my stomach. I crawled to my mother's room and told her something was really wrong. She told me I was having bad period cramps and to take a Midol. I passed out in the hallway 4 hours later. My neighbor, Mrs. Chen, found me when she came over that morning. She called an ambulance. I had appendicitis. My appendix had almost ruptured. My mother visited me in the hospital once. She brought a magazine and spent the entire time talking about how embarrassing it was that the neighbors had to get involved. When I was 19, I got a kidney infection that turned into sepsis. I had been sick for a week, but my mother told me I was just hungover. "You made your choice," she said. "Now deal with the consequences." I wasn't hungover. I was studying for finals. My roommate, Jessica, drove me to urgent care when my fever hit 104. The doctor admitted me immediately. I spent 5 days in the ICU. My mother never came, but someone else did. Owen. Owen had been my stepfather since I was 9 years old. My biological father died when I was 6. My mother remarried 3 years later. And suddenly I had a stepdad who asked about my homework and came to my school plays and taught me how to ride a bike. He was the only parent who ever showed up. When I was in the ICU with sepsis, Owen sat by my bed every single day. He brought me books. He talked to the doctors. He made sure the nurses knew I was allergic to penicillin. He held my hand when they had to put in another IV line, and I was so tired of needles, I started crying. My mother filed for divorce 6 months later. She told me Owen had been cheating on her, that he'd met someone else and didn't want to be part of our family anymore, that he chose his freedom over us, over me. I believed her. For 5 years, I believed her. And now, 2 weeks before I would collapse in an emergency room, I was sitting alone in my apartment at 2 a.m, staring at my phone. Owen's contact was still there. I'd never deleted it. Owen, emergency contact. My finger hovered over his name. I could call him. I could tell him I was scared, that something felt wrong, that my mother wouldn't listen. But then my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Stop bothering Ashley about your symptoms. She has a wedding to plan. Be supportive for once." I put my phone down. I didn't call Owen, and that decision almost killed me. 1 week before the collapse, I woke up and couldn't catch my breath. Not the tight chest feeling from before. This was different. This was drowning on dry land. I sat up in bed, gasping, and it felt like my lungs had forgotten how to work. I checked my phone. 6:47 a.m. I had a presentation at work in 3 hours. I told myself it would pass. I took a shower, got dressed, put on makeup to hide the dark circles under my eyes. By the time I got to the office, I'd convinced myself I was fine. I wasn't fine. My boss, Emma, noticed immediately. Emma is 35, sharp, the kind of woman who doesn't miss anything. She's been my manager for 2 years, and in that time, she's never seen me call in sick. Not once. "Sofia," she said, stopping by my desk that morning. "You look pale. Are you feeling okay?" "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Just tired." She frowned but didn't push. Not yet. At 10:30, I was in the conference room presenting our quarterly projections to a client. 15 people around the table, everyone watching me. I was halfway through slide 7 when it happened. My vision blurred. The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the table to steady myself. "Miss Sofia?" the client asked. "Are you all right?" "Yes, I'm sorry. I took a breath. It didn't go in all the way. Just need a moment." I tried to continue. Made it through 2 more sentences. Then the pain hit. Sharp. Sudden. Like someone had driven a knife between my ribs. I gasped. Stumbled backward. My coworker Jake jumped up and caught me before I hit the floor. "Someone call for help," Emma said. She was next to me in seconds. "Sofia, talk to me. What's happening?" "I can't," I managed. "I can't breathe." The room was spinning. Voices overlapping. Jake had me in a chair. Someone put a glass of water in my hand. I couldn't hold it. It slipped through my fingers and shattered on the floor. "Should we call 911? Jake asked. "No," I said. "No, I'm fine. I just need—" "You're not fine," Emma said firmly. She turned to Jake. "Call an ambulance." "No," I said louder. "Please. I don't need an ambulance. I just need air." Emma knelt in front of me. "Sofia, listen to me. You just collapsed in the middle of a presentation. That's not nothing. It's just anxiety," I said. "My mother gets anxiety attacks all the time. It runs in the family." Emma studied my face. "Does your mother turn gray and nearly pass out?" "Sometimes." It was a lie, but I needed to believe it. I needed everyone to believe it. Emma didn't call 911, but she did drive me home. The whole way there, she kept glancing at me like I might stop breathing. "Promise me you'll see a doctor," she said when she pulled up to my apartment. "Today, I will." Another lie. I went inside, lay on my couch, and instead of calling a doctor, I called my mother. She picked up on the 4th ring. "What, Sofia? I almost passed out at work today. I think something's really wrong." There was a long pause. I heard traffic in the background. She was driving. "You almost passed out," she repeated. "Did you eat breakfast?" "Yes." "Did you drink coffee?" "Mom, because you know caffeine can trigger anxiety. I've told you this 100 times. This isn't about caffeine. My chest hurts. My leg is swollen. I saw bruises and—" "Sofia," my mother interrupted. "I can't do this right now. I'm on my way to get my blood work done. You know I've been dealing with this thyroid issue for months. Do you know how exhausting it is?" I closed my eyes. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "You always do this," she said. "Every time I have something going on, you suddenly have a crisis. It's like you can't stand for anyone else to need attention. That's not what I'm doing, isn't it?" Her voice was cold now. "Look, if you're really that concerned, go to urgent care. But stop calling me every time you have a panic attack. I have my own health to worry about." She hung up. I stared at the ceiling for a long time after that. Then I got up, drove to my mother's house. Because maybe if she could see me, if she could look at me face to face, she would understand. I knocked on her door. No answer. I used my key. "Mom?" I called out. I found her in the living room, lying on the couch with a cold compress over her eyes. The curtains were drawn. The TV was on low volume. "Sofia," she said without moving. "What are you doing here? I needed to see you. I need help." She lifted the compress slightly and looked at me. "You look fine." "I don't feel fine. I collapsed at work today. My boss wanted to call an ambulance, but she didn't." "No, but..." Then clearly it wasn't an emergency. My mother put the compress back over her eyes. "I have a migraine, Sofia. The light hurts. You being here hurts. Can you please go?" I felt something crack inside me. "Mom, please. I'm scared." "You're always scared. That's the problem. Do you know how many times I've rushed you to the hospital for nothing? How many times doctors have told me you're perfectly healthy and I just wasted 3 hours in an ER? Those weren't for nothing. I had a broken arm. I had appendicitis. You had dramatic reactions to normal things. She sat up slightly. I have lived with chronic pain for 30 years. Migraines, fibromyalgia, thyroid problems. I don't collapse at work. I don't call people crying. I deal with it. I'm not you. No, she said. You're not. I'm actually sick. The words hung in the air between us. I left without saying anything else. Got in my car, drove home with tears blurring my vision. That night, Ashley called. Mom told me you went to her house while she had a migraine, she said. Do you know how selfish that is? I almost passed out at work, Ash. I needed help. So call a doctor. Don't bother Mom when she's suffering. I tried to keep my voice steady. Do you think maybe Mom dismisses my problems because she's jealous? Jealous? Ashley laughed. Of what? Your anxiety? Of the fact that I might actually be sick, that I might need attention, that for once it's not about her. Wow, Ashley said. That's really messed up, Soph. You know that, right? Accusing Mom of being jealous because you're having panic attacks? They're not panic attacks. Then what are they? I don't know. That's why I need help. Ashley sighed dramatically. Look, I have a wedding to plan. I can't be your therapist. Maybe try meditation or something. She hung up. I sat on my bathroom floor at 2 a.m. that night, scrolling through medical websites on my phone. I'd already Googled the symptoms a dozen times, but I kept hoping I'd find something different, something that wasn't terrifying. But every search led back to the same results. Pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, blood clots. All of them with the same warning in bold red letters. Seek immediate medical attention. This is a life-threatening emergency. I clicked on one article, read the symptoms list. Shortness of breath. Check. Chest pain. Check. Leg swelling. Check. Unexplained bruising. Check. Rapid heart rate. Check. And then, at the bottom, without treatment, pulmonary embolism can cause sudden death. My hands were shaking. I opened a new tab, started typing urgent care near me, but then I stopped. What if my mother was right? What if I was being dramatic? What if I showed up at urgent care and they ran tests and found nothing and I had to face that humiliation? I closed the browser, put my phone down, took another Xanax. But this time, I did something I hadn't done in 5 years. I opened my contacts, found Owen's number, let my finger hover over the call button. He'd answered before, when I was 19 and dying from sepsis. He'd sat by my hospital bed for 5 days. He'd held my hand. He'd believed me. I could call him now. I could tell him I was scared, that something was wrong, that I needed someone to believe me. The phone was ringing before I realized I'd pressed the button. 1 ring, 2 rings, 3, I hung up. Because what would I even say? Hi, Owen. I know my mom told me you abandoned us and I believed her for 5 years. But now I'm having chest pain and she won't help me, so can you? I couldn't do it. I put the phone down, went to bed, and tried to convince myself that everything would be better in the morning. If you've ever been so gaslit by someone that you doubted your own body, that you ignored warning signs because you were afraid of being called dramatic, comment the word invisible below. I want you to know I see you, and I wish someone had seen me before it was almost too late. 3 days later, I would collapse in the emergency room with minutes left to live. And the person who showed up to save me, it wasn't my mother. 3 days later, I woke up and knew something was very, very wrong. I couldn't sit up. Every breath felt like glass in my lungs. My left leg was so swollen I couldn't bend my knee. When I finally managed to stand, the room spun so violently I had to grab the nightstand to keep from falling. I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Gray skin, blue lips, dark circles so deep they looked like bruises. I should stay home, I thought. I should call Emma, tell her I can't come in. But then I heard my mother's voice in my head. You're always looking for excuses. You're so dramatic. So I got dressed. It took 20 minutes to put on pants because my leg wouldn't cooperate. I skipped makeup because my hands were shaking too badly to hold the brush. I drove to work. I don't remember most of the drive. I remember stopping at a red light and realizing I couldn't feel my fingers on the steering wheel. I remember a car honking behind me because the light had turned green and I hadn't moved. When I walked into the office at 9:15, Emma was at the coffee machine. She took one look at me and her face went white. "Sofia," she said. "Oh my God. Sit down. Right now." "I'm fine," I said. "You're gray. You're literally gray." She grabbed my arm. "I'm taking you to the hospital." "No." I pulled away. "I have the Morrison meeting at 10. I can't miss it." "Sofia." "I'm fine, Emma. I just didn't sleep well." That was a lie. I hadn't slept at all. Every time I lay down, I couldn't breathe. I'd spent the night propped up against pillows, gasping for air, telling myself it would pass. Emma stared at me for a long moment. Then she said, "If you feel worse, even a little bit worse, you tell me immediately. Do you understand?" "I understand." Another lie. At 9:47, I was at my desk reviewing the presentation one more time. My coworker Jake stopped by with questions about the budget projections. I tried to answer him. The words came out wrong, jumbled, like my brain couldn't remember how to form sentences. "Sof, you okay?" Jake asked. "Just tired." He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. At 9:58, we filed into the conference room. 15 people. The Morrison clients at the head of the table. Emma to my right, Jake to my left. All of them watching me set up the projector. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my laptop. "Whenever you're ready, Sofia," Mr. Morrison said. I opened my mouth to begin, and that's when I realized I couldn't take a full breath, not even close. It was like my lungs had shrunk to the size of shot glasses. "Good morning," I managed. "Thank you all for being here today." The words felt thick. Wrong. I clicked to the first slide. Quarterly projections, fourth quarter revenue growth, numbers I'd memorized, numbers that suddenly looked like hieroglyphics. "As you can see," I continued, "our Q4 numbers show a significant..." The room tilted. I grabbed the edge of the table, tried to steady myself, but the floor was moving now, rising and falling like I was on a boat. "Miss Sofia?" Mr. Morrison's voice sounded far away. "Are you all right?" "Yes, I'm sorry. Just give me..." The pain hit then. Sudden. Crushing. Like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart in their fist. I gasped, stumbled backward. My hip hit the corner of the table. "Sofia," Emma said. She was standing now. "Sofia, sit down." "I can't," I whispered. And then my legs gave out. I didn't fall. I crumpled, like a puppet with cut strings. One second I was standing, the next I was on the floor, the beige conference room carpet pressed against my cheek. "Call 911, someone shouted. I think it was Jake, hands on my shoulders, Emma's face above mine. Her lips were moving, but I couldn't hear the words over the roaring in my ears. "Stay with me," Emma was saying. "Sofia, stay with me. Look at me." I tried, but the edges of my vision were going dark, closing in like a tunnel. Someone put something under my head, a jacket. Emma's jacket. I could smell her perfume, vanilla and something floral. "The ambulance is on the way," a voice said. 3 minutes out. "Does she have any medical conditions?" Another voice asked. "I don't know," Emma said. She was holding my hand, squeezing it. "Sofia, do you have any medical conditions? Are you on any medications?" I tried to answer, tried to say no, but my tongue felt too heavy, too big for my mouth. "She mentioned her mother," Jake said. "Something about anxiety running in the family." "No," I tried to say. "Not anxiety, not this time." But nothing came out. The paramedics arrived, 2 of them, a man and a woman. They knelt beside me with equipment I couldn't identify. The woman put an oxygen mask over my face. The man wrapped a blood pressure cuff around my arm. "BP is 90/60, the man said. Heart rate 140. O2 sat is 84. We need to move her, the woman said. Now. They lifted me onto a stretcher. The fluorescent office lights passed overhead, faces staring down at me, concerned, scared. Emma was next to the stretcher, still holding my hand. I'm calling your emergency contact, she said. Who should I call? My mother, I whispered through the oxygen mask. What's her number? I told her. Emma pulled out her phone, started dialing. The last thing I saw before they wheeled me out of the office was the conference room. The Morrison presentation still on the projector screen. My laptop still open. My coffee still sitting on the table. Steam rising from the cup. In the ambulance, the female paramedic was asking me questions. Can you tell me your name? Can you tell me what happened? Any history of heart problems? Lung problems? I couldn't answer any of them. The oxygen mask was fogging up with each shallow breath. The siren was screaming above us. And then I heard Emma's voice through my phone, which the paramedic must have taken from my pocket. Mrs. Diane? This is Emma Chen. I'm Sofia's manager. I'm calling because Sofia collapsed at work. We're in an ambulance right now heading to St. Mary's Hospital. A pause. Then my mother's voice. Tinny, distant, but unmistakably irritated. Collapsed? What do you mean collapsed? She lost consciousness during a meeting. The paramedics said it's serious. They're taking her to the ER right now. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm in the middle of something, my mother said. Tell her I'll meet her there in an hour. Ma'am, Emma said, and I could hear the disbelief in her voice. This is an emergency. Your daughter. Everything is an emergency with Sofia, my mother interrupted. If it were really serious, they would have called me directly, not her boss. The paramedic exchanged a look with his partner, a look that said everything. Ma'am, Emma tried again. The paramedics are telling me her oxygen levels are dangerously low. She needs you. I heard my mother sigh. A long, dramatic sigh. The kind she makes when I've inconvenienced her. Fine, she said. I'll be there when I can. The line went dead. The paramedic put my phone down. Ma'am, she said gently to me, is there anyone else we can call? I closed my eyes, thought of Owen's name in my contacts. Owen, emergency contact. But I couldn't speak anymore. Couldn't move. Could barely breathe. We're 2 minutes out, the male paramedic said. Radio ahead. Tell them we have a possible PE. Female, 24. Critical condition. PE. Pulmonary embolism. The words I'd Googled at 2 a.m. The words I'd been too afraid to believe. Hold on, the female paramedic said to me. Just hold on a little longer. I tried. I really tried. But the darkness was closing in fast. The ER doors slammed open. Fluorescent lights. White ceiling tiles. The smell of disinfectant and something metallic I couldn't identify. Voices shouting over each other. Female, 24. Collapsed at work. Suspected pulmonary embolism. BP dropping. 85/55. Get her into Bay 4. Stat. Hands everywhere. Lifting me. Moving me. Pulling at my clothes. The oxygen mask came off for a second and I gasped, drowning in air that wouldn't fill my lungs. Stay with us, Sofia, a new voice said. Male. Calm. I'm Dr. Patel. We're going to take care of you. I tried to focus on his face. Brown skin, dark eyes, a blue surgical mask covering his nose and mouth. Sofia, can you hear me? Dr. Patel asked. I managed a small nod. Good. That's good. We're going to run some tests. You're going to be okay. But his eyes told a different story. His eyes said I might not be okay at all. A nurse appeared next to him. Young. Red hair pulled back in a ponytail. She was holding a clipboard. Do we have family contact information? She asked. Her boss called the mother, someone said. She's on her way. Dr. Patel nodded. Start her on IV fluids. Get a CT angiography ordered. I want D-dimer, troponin, full cardiac panel, and Page cardiothoracic. Tell them we might need them. The next 20 minutes were a blur of needles and machines and questions I couldn't answer. They took my blood. So much blood. They hooked me up to monitors that beeped steadily. They took me for a CT scan, sliding me into a massive white tube while injecting something into my IV that made my whole body feel warm. Through it all, I kept waiting for my mother to arrive. She didn't. When they brought me back to the ER bay, Dr. Patel was waiting with a tablet in his hands. His expression was grim. "Sofia," he said gently, "we have your results." I tried to sit up. A nurse stopped me. "Easy," she said. "Stay still." Dr. Patel pulled up a stool next to my bed. "Sofia, you have bilateral pulmonary embolism. That means you have blood clots in both of your lungs. Multiple clots. They're blocking blood flow and oxygen." The room seemed to tilt again. "We also found evidence of deep vein thrombosis in your left leg. That's where the clots originated. Some of them broke off and traveled to your lungs." "Is she going to die?" someone asked. I realized it was me. My voice, barely a whisper. Dr. Patel met my eyes. "Not if we treat you immediately. But Sofia, this is very serious. Without treatment, these clots can cause cardiac arrest. Your heart is already under significant strain." "What kind of treatment?" I asked. "We need to start you on blood thinners immediately. Anticoagulants that will prevent new clots from forming and help your body dissolve the existing ones. There are risks, bleeding complications, but the alternative is..." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. "Okay," I said. "Do it. We need parental consent. You're on your mother's insurance, correct?" "Yes. And she's on her way?" "She said she'd be here in an hour." That was... I tried to look at the clock on the wall. My vision was blurry. "How long ago was that?" "About 90 minutes ago," the red-haired nurse said quietly. Dr. Patel's jaw tightened. "Call her again." The nurse pulled out a phone, dialed, put it on speaker. It rang, and rang, and rang. Finally, voicemail. "You've reached Diane. Leave a message. Mrs. Diane, this is St. Mary's Hospital calling about your daughter Sofia. Please call us back immediately. This is urgent." She hung up, looked at Dr. Patel. "Try again," he said. The nurse dialed again. Same result. Voicemail. Dr. Patel stood up. "How are her vitals?" "Stable for now," another nurse said. "But her O2 sat is still only 88. Heart rate is 135. We don't have time to wait," Dr. Patel said. "Prep the anticoagulants. I'll get consent myself if I have to." And that's when I heard her voice. "Excuse me, where is Sofia's room?" "My mother." Finally, I turned my head toward the sound. Through the gap in the curtain, I could see her at the nurse's station. She was wearing yoga pants and a sweater. Her hair was perfect. In her hand was a Starbucks cup. She'd stopped for coffee. "Bay 4, a nurse said, pointing. My mother pushed through the curtain. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the monitors, the IV lines, Dr. Patel in his white coat. "What's going on?" she asked. No one would tell me anything. Dr. Patel stepped forward. "Mrs. Diane, I'm Dr. Patel. Your daughter has a serious medical emergency." My mother looked at me, then back at Dr. Patel. Her face was skeptical. "What kind of emergency?" "Bilateral pulmonary embolism. Blood clots in both lungs. We need to start treatment immediately, but we need your consent." "Blood clots?" My mother frowned. "She's 24 years old. That doesn't make sense." Nevertheless, that's the diagnosis. The CT scan confirmed it. My mother crossed her arms. "I want a second opinion." Dr. Patel blinked. "Ma'am, we don't have time for a second opinion. Your daughter is in critical condition. She doesn't look critical. She looks like she's having an anxiety attack." "Mrs. Diane," Dr. Patel's voice was firm now. "I understand this is frightening, but I've been an emergency physician for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of pulmonary embolisms. Your daughter has multiple bilateral clots. Her oxygen saturation is dangerously low. Her heart is working overtime trying to compensate. If we don't start anticoagulation therapy in the next hour, she could go into cardiac arrest." My mother stared at him. Then she looked at me again. "Sofia," she said, "is this really necessary? Or are you just scared?" I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The monitors were beeping faster now. The red-haired nurse was watching them with increasing concern. "Mom," I finally whispered. "Please, you always do this," my mother said. Her voice was rising. "Every time there's something going on in my life, you create drama. I'm supposed to have a thyroid ultrasound next week. Did you know that? Did you even ask?" "Ma'am, doctor," Patel interrupted. "This is not about you. This is about your daughter's life. Don't tell me what this is about," my mother snapped. "I'm a chronic pain patient. I've lived with real medical problems for 30 years. I think I know the difference between a real emergency and anxiety. This is not anxiety." "Then why has she been calling me all week saying she can't breathe? She's had anxiety since she was a teenager. This is exactly what it looks like when she has an attack. Mrs. Diane, we have imaging. We have blood work. The D-dimer is elevated. The troponin is elevated. These are objective measurements, not subjective feelings. I don't care about your measurements." My mother's face was red now. "I'm not authorizing anything until I see a second opinion. We don't have time for that." "Then maybe," my mother said coldly. "You're being dramatic too, doctor." The room went silent, and that's when it happened. The monitor started screaming, a high-pitched alarm that made everyone turn. "Her pressure's dropping," the red-haired nurse shouted. 70 over 40. Sats are 80. "She's crashing," another voice said. I felt it then, the crushing weight on my chest, the darkness closing in faster now, much faster. "Get the crash cart," Dr. Patel yelled. "Code blue, Bay 4. I saw my mother's face, saw the moment her skepticism turned to fear, and then I saw nothing at all. I didn't see what happened next, but Emma told me later, when I could finally bear to hear it. While the nurses were doing chest compressions and Dr. Patel was shouting orders, and my mother was standing frozen in the corner, Emma was in the hospital waiting room, hands shaking, scrolling through my phone. She'd taken it from my purse when the paramedics brought me in, just in case my mother didn't show up, just in case someone else needed to be called. And that's when she saw it. Buried in my contacts list. Owen. Emergency contact. Emma didn't know who Owen was, didn't know our history, didn't know anything except that I'd listed him as an emergency contact, and my mother had just let me code. So she called him. He answered on the second ring. "Hello?" Emma took a breath. "Is this Owen?" "Yes." "Who's this?" "My name is Emma Chen. I'm Sofia's manager. I found your number in her phone. She listed you as an emergency contact." A pause. Then his voice changed. Sharper. Urgent. "Is she okay?" "No," Emma said. "She collapsed at work this morning. She has blood clots in her lungs. We're at St. Mary's Hospital and Her voice broke. "She just went into cardiac arrest. I'm on my way." The line went dead. Owen lived 45 minutes from the hospital. He made it in 23. I was still unconscious when he arrived, still surrounded by machines and monitors, still gray-skinned and barely breathing while Dr. Patel worked to stabilize me. But my mother was very much awake. She was standing outside my bay, arguing with a nurse about whether she'd made the right decision to refuse treatment, whether this was really her fault, whether anyone could prove she'd delayed care. That's when Owen walked in. Emma said she'd never seen anything like it. 1 second the ER was chaos, noise, panic. The next second, everything went quiet, because Owen didn't walk. He ran. Straight through the automatic doors, past the security desk, past the waiting room, eyes scanning every bay until he found mine. And then he saw Diane. Diane. My mother turned. Her face went white. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Owen didn't answer her. He walked past her like she didn't exist and went straight to the nurse's station. "Where is Sofia?" he asked the red-haired nurse. "Bay 4, she said, pointing. "But sir, only family. I'm her stepfather." The nurse hesitated, looked at Diane, looked back at Owen. "He's not family anymore," Diane said quickly. "We've been divorced for 5 years. He has no rights here." Owen turned to face her then, and Emma said the look on his face could have frozen fire. "Where were you," he asked quietly, "when she was dying?" Diane's mouth opened, closed. "Where were you when the hospital called 90 minutes ago? Where were you when your daughter needed you to sign papers that could save her life?" "I was here," Diane said defensively. "I came as soon as I could." "You came with a Starbucks," Owen said. He pointed at the cup still in her hand. "Your daughter was in cardiac arrest and you stopped for coffee." Diane flushed red. "You don't know what you're talking about." Dr. Patel appeared then, pushing through the curtain. He looked exhausted. There was blood on his white coat. "She's stable," he said. "For now." Owen turned to him immediately. "What does she need?" Dr. Patel glanced at Diane, then back at Owen. "She needs immediate anticoagulation therapy, but we need family consent and insurance verification before we can proceed." "I'll sign," Owen said. "You can't," Diane interrupted. "You're not her legal guardian." Owen pulled out his wallet, handed Dr. Patel a card. "Check her insurance," he said. Dr. Patel took the card, walked over to a computer, typed something. His eyebrows went up. "She's covered under your plan?" "She's been on my plan for 5 years," Owen said. "I never took her off after the divorce." The room went silent. Diane's face changed. Confusion, then realization, then fury. "You what?" "I kept paying for her insurance," Owen said calmly. "Every month. Because I knew you wouldn't." "That's illegal," Diane sputtered. "You can't just—" "It's completely legal," Dr. Patel said. "He's listed as the policyholder, which means he can authorize treatment." Owen looked at Dr. Patel. "What does she need?" "Blood thinners to dissolve the clots. Possibly surgical intervention if the medication doesn't work fast enough. She'll need to be admitted to the ICU for monitoring." "Do it," Owen said. "Whatever she needs. Cost doesn't matter." "Mr. Owen," Dr. Patel said carefully, "the treatment is expensive. Even with insurance, we're looking at—" "I don't care," Owen interrupted. "Save her." Dr. Patel nodded, started giving orders to the nurses. Within minutes, they were wheeling me toward the ICU, hooking up new IV lines, preparing medications I couldn't pronounce. Owen followed. Diane tried to follow too. Owen stopped, turned to face her. "No," he said. "Excuse me? You don't get to be here. You don't get to play concerned mother after what you just did. She's my daughter. You let her code," Owen said. His voice was shaking now. "The doctor told you she was dying and you called him dramatic. I didn't know it was that serious." "You didn't want to know." Owen took a step closer. "You've spent her entire life telling her she's too sensitive, too dramatic, too needy. And when she was actually dying, you still couldn't admit you were wrong." Diane's eyes filled with tears. "That's not fair." "Fair?" Owen laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what's not fair? Sofia called me emergency contact 5 years ago and I didn't know it. She kept my number in her phone all this time and I had no idea she still thought about me. Because you told her I abandoned her. You poisoned her against me so thoroughly that even when she was dying, she almost didn't call. I did what I had to do." Diane whispered. "You lied. To protect her. From what? From someone who actually loved her?" Diane didn't answer. Owen turned away, started walking toward the ICU where they were taking me. "Owen," Diane called after him. "You can't keep me from my daughter." He stopped, didn't turn around. "Watch me," he said. And then he was gone, following the gurney that carried me, leaving my mother standing alone in the emergency room with her cold Starbucks and her excuses. Emma watched it all. She told me later that she'd never seen someone stand up to Diane before, that in all the times I'd mentioned my mother at work, all the times I'd made excuses for missed calls or last-minute cancellations, Emma had never understood just how bad it was. Now she did, and so would I, when I finally woke up. I woke up to the sound of beeping, steady, rhythmic, a heart monitor somewhere to my left. My mouth was dry. My throat felt like sandpaper. Everything hurt, but in a distant way, like the pain was happening to someone else's body. I opened my eyes slowly. White ceiling, white walls, a window showing dark sky. Night then. But which night? I turned my head, and that's when I saw him. Owen. He was sitting in a chair next to my bed, head tilted back, eyes closed. He'd aged since I'd last seen him. More gray in his hair, deeper lines around his eyes. But it was him. Unmistakably him. Owen? I whispered. His eyes opened immediately. He sat forward and I saw the relief flood his face. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. "Welcome back." Kiddo. He used to call me that. When I was 14 and he taught me how to drive. When I was 16 and helped me study for the SATs. When I was 19 and sat by my hospital bed during sepsis. What? I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my chest. I gasped. "Easy," Owen said, standing quickly. "Don't move too fast. You've got a lot of medication in your system. What happened? You collapsed. At work." He pulled the chair closer to my bed. "You had blood clots in your lungs. Both lungs. The doctors said if Emma hadn't called the ambulance when she did." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. "How long have I been here?" 2 days. "You've been in and out of consciousness, but this is the first time you've really woken up." 2 days. "Where's my mother?" Owen's expression hardened. "She was here the first day. Briefly." "Briefly?" "She left after about an hour. Said she needed to go home and rest. That watching you was too stressful for her." I closed my eyes. "Of course she did. She hasn't been back," Owen added quietly. I waited for the pain of that statement to hit. The rejection, the abandonment. But all I felt was numbness. Like I'd used up all my capacity to be hurt by her, and there was nothing left. "Ashley?" I asked. "She came yesterday. Stayed about 10 minutes. Said she had a dress fitting she couldn't miss. For the wedding." "For the wedding." I looked at Owen. Really looked at him. His shirt was wrinkled. There were dark circles under his eyes. A coffee cup sat on the table next to him, cold and forgotten. "Have you been here the whole time?" "Yes." "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," Owen said firmly. "I did. But Mom told me." I stopped. The words felt heavy. "Wrong. Mom told me you left us. That you didn't want to be part of our family anymore." Owen was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached over and took my hand. His palm was warm, familiar. "Sofia," he said gently. "Is that really what you think happened? That's what she told me. That you met someone else and walked away." "I didn't meet someone else." He squeezed my hand. "Your mother and I divorced because she was having an affair. Multiple affairs, actually. I found out about them and asked for a divorce." "What?" "She begged me not to tell you. Said it would destroy you. That you were already struggling with college applications and stress, and that finding out your mother cheated would push you over the edge." My head was spinning. This didn't make sense. None of it made sense. "So I agreed," Owen continued. "I agreed to keep it quiet, to let her tell you whatever story she wanted about the divorce. But I never thought—" He stopped. His voice cracked slightly. "I never thought she'd tell you I abandoned you, that she'd make you hate me." "I didn't hate you," I whispered. "I was just hurt. I thought you chose to leave. Sofia, I tried to contact you 47 times in the first year after the divorce. I called. I texted. I sent emails. Do you remember getting any of them?" I thought back. No. No calls. No texts. No emails. "She blocked my number on your phone," Owen said. "I didn't realize it until months later. By then, you were in college. I tried reaching out through social media. Your mother told me you'd asked her to make me stop, that you wanted nothing to do with me. I never said that. I know that now." A tear slid down my cheek. I didn't try to stop it. "Why didn't you keep trying?" I asked. "I did. For 2 years I tried. But eventually I had to accept that maybe you really didn't want me in your life anymore. That maybe I'd failed you somehow as a parent and this was the consequence." "You didn't fail me," I said. "You were the only parent who ever showed up." Owen's eyes were wet now too. "I kept you on my insurance," he said. "Even after the divorce was finalized. Even after your mother told me to take you off. I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave you completely unprotected. You paid for my insurance for 5 years? Every month. I kept thinking, what if she gets sick? What if something happens and she needs help and I'm not there? At least this way, I'd know the hospital could reach me. And they did, I whispered. And they did. We sat in silence for a while. The monitors beeped. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang. Why did she lie? I finally asked. Why would she do that? Owen sighed. I think your mother has been lying for so long she doesn't know how to stop. Lying about me, lying about your health, lying to herself about who she is and what she's done. She really didn't believe I was sick. No, he shook his head. She couldn't believe it. Because if she admitted you were really sick, she'd have to admit she was wrong. And your mother can never be wrong. Even when I was dying. Even then. I looked at the IV in my arm. The monitors tracking my vitals. The oxygen tube in my nose. She let me code, I said. Emma told me. She refused to sign the consent forms and I went into cardiac arrest. Owen's jaw tightened. Yes. But you signed them. Yes. You saved my life. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw 5 years of worry and grief and love in his eyes. Sofia, he said, you were my daughter for 10 years. A piece of paper doesn't change that. It never did. I started crying then. Really crying. 5 years of believing I'd been abandoned. 5 years of thinking I wasn't worth staying for. 5 years of carrying a lie that had poisoned everything. Owen stood up, sat on the edge of my bed, put his arms around me carefully, mindful of the wires and tubes. I've got you, he said. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in 5 years, I believed someone when they said they'd stay. If your family ever made you believe you were abandoned when you were actually loved, if someone ever lied to you about who cared and who didn't, comment the words I understand below, because I need you to know you're not alone in this, and the people who truly love you never stop trying. On the third day, Owen brought a cardboard box. I was sitting up in bed, finally off the strongest medications, when he walked in carrying it. The box was old, taped at the corners, my name written on the side in black marker. What's that? I asked. Owen set it on the chair next to my bed, something I should have shown you a long time ago. He opened it carefully. Inside were folders, dozens of them, organized by year. After the divorce, he said, I realized I didn't have much documentation of your childhood. Your mother had everything. All the photos, the report cards, the medical records. So I started requesting copies. School records, hospital records, anything I could get legally as your former guardian. Why? He pulled out the first folder. Because I needed to know I wasn't crazy, that the things I'd seen, the patterns I'd noticed, they were real. He handed me the folder. It was labeled Sofia, age 8, elementary school. I opened it. Inside was a letter on school letterhead, dated 12 years ago. Dear Mrs. Diane, it read, this is the third time this semester that Sofia has come to the nurse's office with concerning symptoms that you have dismissed as attention-seeking behavior. Today, Sofia's arm was visibly fractured, and you initially refused to take her to the hospital until Mrs. Palmer intervened. We are documenting this incident and strongly recommend you take Sofia's health complaints more seriously in the future. I stared at the letter. I'd never seen it before. There are 4 more letters like that, Owen said quietly. 4 times in elementary school alone where teachers or the school nurse had to document your mother's negligence. I pulled out the next document, an email from my middle school principal. Mrs. Diane, we are concerned about Sofia's repeated absences due to illness and your delayed response to emergency situations. Last week, Sofia collapsed in the hallway and was transported to the hospital by paramedics. You did not arrive at the hospital for over 3 hours. The emergency room doctor noted that Sofia had acute appendicitis that had nearly ruptured. We must insist that you respond more urgently to future medical emergencies involving your daughter. My hands were shaking. Owen pulled out another folder. This one is from when you were 19, he said. The kidney infection. Inside was a hospital discharge summary, but there was also something else. A note from the attending physician. Patient, Presented with advanced pyelonephritis progressing to sepsis. Patient reports being ill for approximately 1 week before seeking treatment. When asked why she delayed care, patient stated her mother told her she was exaggerating symptoms. Patient appears to have pattern of minimizing her own medical needs, possibly due to familial invalidation. Recommend follow-up with mental health services to address medical trauma. I'd never seen that note. Never knew the doctor had written it. There's more, Owen said. He pulled out a thick stack of papers. After you turned 18, I couldn't access your medical records anymore, but I kept everything from before. Emergency room visits, urgent care appointments. Every single time someone else had to bring you in because your mother wouldn't. How many times? Owen's face was grim. Between the ages of 6 and 18, 11 documented medical emergencies. 11 times that someone else, a teacher, a neighbor, a friend's parent, had to intervene because your mother dismissed your symptoms. I felt sick. Not from the blood thinners, from the realization of what he was showing me. This isn't normal, I whispered. No, Owen said. It's not. He sat down on the edge of my bed. Sofia, I've done a lot of research over the past few years, trying to understand why your mother is the way she is. And there's a pattern in psychology called Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Usually it means a parent fabricates or induces illness in their child for attention. But there's a reverse pattern too, where a parent denies real illness because they need to be the sickest person in the room. That's Mom. Yes. Owen pulled out one more document. This one was different, older, yellowed paper. Your mother has been seeing doctors for chronic pain since before you were born. Fibromyalgia, migraines, chronic fatigue. But look at this. He showed me a medical record from 26 years ago. Multiple doctors over several years. All of them noting the same thing. Patient reports severe symptoms, but all diagnostic tests return normal. Patient appears to have somatic symptom disorder. Recommend psychiatric evaluation. She's not actually sick. She's sick, Owen said carefully. Just not physically, not the way she thinks she is. But she's built her entire identity around being ill, around suffering more than anyone else. And if you're actually sick, if you're actually suffering, then her narrative falls apart. So she has to make me the dramatic one. Yes, because if you're legitimately ill, then she has to admit she's been wrong about you for 24 years. And that's something she can't do. I looked at all the folders spread across my bed. Years of documentation. Years of proof that I wasn't dramatic, wasn't exaggerating, that every time I said something was wrong, I was right. Why didn't you show me this before? I asked. I tried, Owen said, after the divorce. But your mother convinced you I was lying, that I was trying to turn you against her, and I didn't have the legal standing to fight her anymore. So I kept it all, hoping that someday you'd be ready to see it. I'm ready now. I know. Dr. Patel walked in then, clipboard in hand. He saw the folders spread across the bed and paused. Am I interrupting? No, I said. Actually, can I ask you something? Of course. When my mother refused to sign the consent forms, when she said I was being dramatic, did you believe her? Even for a second? Dr. Patel's expression was serious. Sofia, I've been an emergency physician for 15 years. I've seen thousands of patients, and I can tell you with absolute certainty that you were one of the sickest people I'd seen that week. Your mother's refusal to acknowledge that wasn't medical judgment. It was denial. He glanced at the documents on my bed. I see you're learning the history, he said gently. For what it's worth, I documented everything that happened in the ER. Your mother's refusal of care, her statements, the timeline. If you ever need it, for legal purposes or otherwise, it's in your medical record. Thank you, I said. After he left, I looked at Owen. She almost killed me, I said. Not just this time. All those times. The broken arm, the appendicitis, the sepsis. Any one of them could have killed me. But they didn't, Owen said. Because other people showed up. Teachers, neighbors, friends, and me, when I could. And you showed up again. Always. Owen said. "I will always show up for you, Sofia." I believed him. Finally, after 5 years, I believed him. My mother came back on the 4th day. I heard her voice in the hallway before I saw her, talking to a nurse. That same tone she uses when she wants to sound concerned but can't quite fake the warmth. She walked in carrying grocery store flowers. Her hair wasn't perfect. No makeup. She looked tired. "Sofia," she said softly. "How are you feeling?" "Alive. No thanks to you." She set the flowers down without looking at me. "That's not fair." "Mom, I saw the records. All of them." Her head snapped up. "The letters from my elementary school, the emails from my teachers, 11 documented times between ages 6 and 18, where someone else had to save me because you wouldn't. Owen had no right to show you those. You had no right to let me almost die. Multiple times." She turned to the window. "I was doing my best. Your best was telling a doctor I was being dramatic while I went into cardiac arrest." Silence. I sat up straighter despite the pain in my chest. "Mom, you're sick. Not physically. But you need help. Real help. Therapy. I'm not the one who... Until you get help, I can't have you in my life." She spun around, eyes wide. "You're choosing him over me? After everything I've done for you? You canceled my health insurance when I turned 21, but you're still paying Ashley's." Her face went pale. "Owen told me. I've been on his insurance for 5 years because you dropped me the day I became an adult." "That's different." "Why? Because Ashley doesn't challenge you? Because she plays along with your narrative? You don't understand. I understand that you lied about Owen for 5 years, that you blocked his calls so I'd think he abandoned me, that you built your whole identity around being sick, and couldn't let me be sick too." Her hands were shaking now. "If you get help," I said quietly, "if you actually work on yourself and can apologize without excuses, we can try again, slowly. But until then, I need you to leave." She grabbed her purse. "You'll regret this. Maybe, but I'll be alive to regret it. When you have children, you'll understand how ungrateful they can be. If I have children, I'll believe them when they say they're in pain." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she left. The door clicked shut. I waited for guilt, for regret, but all I felt was exhausted and lighter. "Ashley called that night. Mom said you kicked her out of your hospital room." "I set boundaries, Ash. There's a difference. You're tearing this family apart." "No, I almost died and she called it a panic attack. That's what tore us apart. She was scared. She refused to sign consent forms while I was dying. That's not fear. That's cruelty." Silence on the other end. "Ash, you stayed 10 minutes. You had a dress fitting you couldn't miss. That was important. More important than your sister in the ICU?" She hung up. 3 months later, I'm living 15 minutes from Owen. Small apartment, plants in the window, a life that's mine. I quit my old job. Too many memories of that conference room. I work remotely now. Emma gives me glowing recommendations and we have coffee every week. Owen and I have dinner every Sunday. We're rebuilding slowly. It's awkward sometimes, but it's real. My mother hasn't reached out. Ashley texts when she needs something. We're not close. Maybe we never were. And I'm learning that's okay, because family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up when you're dying on a hospital floor. It's who pays your insurance for 5 years just in case. It's who believes you when you say it hurts. I spent 24 years trying to earn love from people who couldn't give it, thinking I was too dramatic, too sensitive, too much. But I wasn't too much. I was exactly enough. I just needed people who could see it. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for witnessing my story. For so long, I felt invisible. If your family ever made you doubt your pain, if they called you dramatic when you were dying, if they chose their comfort over your survival, hear this. You're not dramatic. Your pain is real. You deserve people who believe you. The people who gaslight you, who minimize your suffering, who make you question your body, they don't get to keep you. You choose who stays. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. I'm still healing from the blood clots, from 24 years of being invisible. But I'm healing with people who see me, who believe me, who show up. Owen taught me something important. Love isn't what people say. It's what they do. It's showing up. It's staying. It's believing you when everyone else calls you dramatic. My mother taught me something too. That you can't fix people who don't want to be fixed. That you can't earn love from someone who's determined not to give it. That sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away. 3 days ago, I ran into Emma at the coffee shop. She hugged me tight. "You look good," she said. "Healthy. I feel good. Different, but good." She smiled. "You know what I remember most about that day? When you collapsed?" "What?" "How many people jumped up to help you?" "Jake, the Morrison clients, everyone in that room." She squeezed my hand. "You've always been surrounded by people who see you, Sofia. You just couldn't see it because you were looking in the wrong direction." She was right. I'd spent so long looking at my mother, waiting for her to turn around and see me, that I missed everyone else who already did. If this story meant something to you, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment with your story, because I read everyone. There's another story in the description below. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me, because that's all any of us really want. To be seen, to be believed, to matter. You matter. Never forget that.